Let me call Lareno Spann. Do we have Mr. Spann in the courtroom?
Judge, for the record, Tyler Gates on behalf of Lareno Spann.
All right,
Judge,
let me just hold on one second. Mr. Spann, your attorney is here in the courtroom with me. If at any time you can't hear him, let me know, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you're here on two separate dockets. Your first docket charges you with possession of a weapon by a gang-related felon or delinquent and alteration or removal of a firearm or serial number. Your second docket is for a failure to appear in front of Judge Eckley Mulder on a VOP case. And I'm sorry, Mr. Gates, go ahead.
Judge, if I may, if we could permit Cynthia Hayes to appear on Zoom. I told her to keep her microphone muted. That is his sister. She's logged in the waiting room.
Yep, we can do that. Give us just 1 minute.
You need to, hey, don't do that in court. Sorry with that, Your Honor.
That's okay. Let's just get Miss Hayes.
Yeah, Ms. Hayes, just keep yourself on mute.
She's still connected to audio. Let's give her a minute. Miss Hayes, are you able to hear me? Mr. Gates, I don't think she has audio at this point.
Okay.
But
Judge, I've been in communication with her. I'll let her know the update. It looks
Okay.
like she's trying to connect, but it's okay.
there she is. Miss Hayes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, I'm just going to ask you to keep your microphone on mute, okay? The attorney, Mr. Gates, is here in court with me, and I'm about to hear his argument on the case.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead.
Judge, if I first may be heard as it relates to the misdemeanor VOP, I realize that Judge Eckley Mulder did issue bonds in the amount of $5,003 times 3. I would note for the record that Mr. Spann was placed on probation back on January 11th of 2022. It appears based on my review of CORE that about 5 days before that probation was set to expire, Judge Eckley Mulder issued a summons. CORE reflects that summons was not delivered. It was not served on Mr. Spann. My belief is Mr. Spann believed he had terminated probation and completed probation already as is. That being said, the warrant then was issued after probation termination date. So based on the fact that my position is he did not receive the summons and therefore did not willingly fail to appear, I'd ask the court to consider reducing those bonds to ROR and allow him to appear in front of Judge Eckley Mulder at the next available date with her.
Okay.
On the felony cases, Judge, I had the opportunity to review the police report. I would just note for the record, obviously, I'll make arguments that I don't know without this video that of course we haven't seen yet, but without this live video, it certainly does not seem like there would be probable cause but for that video. This was a residence where there were 20 or 25 people apparently in the residence. All of them were taken out and removed apparently one by one, and then firearms were recovered inside of the house. There's no admissions by Mr. Spann that he possessed any of these firearms. A firearm is recovered inside a freezer, which is purportedly one that was observed on the video. So Judge, I'd ask the court to set the bond to $25,003 on count 1. I would ask the court to consider setting a bond of $5,003 on count 2, based on the argument. I reviewed the statute, and that is Florida statute 790.271B. Within that statute, there's two different charges that could stem from that offense. One is the third-degree felony, which is basically proof that he actually himself altered or removed the serial number. And then the second section of that statute indicates that it would be a first-degree misdemeanor. I'm just pulling up the statute. It is unlawful for any person knowingly sell, deliver, or possess any firearm on which the manufacturer, importer serial number has been unlawfully altered or removed. I would argue, Judge, assuming the state can prove that this firearm, that Mr. Spann was in possession of this firearm, then even still, that would be a first-degree misdemeanor. So I'd ask for a bond consistent with a first-degree misdemeanor, as opposed to the third-degree felony, which I would argue, based on the police report, the state cannot prove that he himself altered or removed the serial number.
Does the state wish to be heard on count 2 of the felony docket?
Oh, the state would defer to the court, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Spann, as I mentioned, you've got two different dockets. On your first docket, it's possession of a weapon by a gang-related felon or delinquent, and then alteration or removal of firearm serial number. I do find, based upon the facts in the arrest and booking report, that that is sufficient for probable cause on both charges, even though I think your attorney has made a good argument and probably has a good argument as to why that charge should not necessarily be filed, which is a higher standard. So based upon that finding, I am going to pass your case to circuit court on June the 14th. Mr. Gates, are you in for the duration?
Yes, ma'am. This time I can be reflected as attorney of record.
All right, so I will not appoint the public defender's office, Mr. Spann. I'm going to show that Mr. Gates is representing you. I'm going to set your bonds at $75,003 and $25,003 on that case. In regard to the violation of probation in front of Judge Eckley Mulder, I do see where a summons was sent to you but was not executed. However, I also see the rule to show cause for the violation of probation, which indicates a failure to report to probation, a failure to pay probation fees, a failure to pay court costs, and failure to provide proof of making an effort to obtain part-time employment, and by submitting proof of 4 job applications for your attempts to obtain that employment. So based upon that, I think there was reason for Judge Eckley Mulder to issue that habeas. Now, I will say that she is in court tomorrow. Mr. Gates can always address this case with her tomorrow, and I will make sure that she's aware of your case. As soon as I get out of court today, I'll address it with her. So on that VOP, I will leave the bonds as set by Judge Eckley Mulder at $5,003, $5,003, and $5,003. And I will pass your case to her division on June the 7th at 9:30 in courtroom 309. That'll be for an appearance on the BOP. Mr. Gates, will you be representing him on that case as well?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so I will not appoint the public defender's office to represent him. All right, Mr. Spann, that's it for today. If you bond out, just be sure to contact Mr. Gates as soon as possible.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good day.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hirsch, it may be a little while if you want to come back.